Welcome to Feeling Asian, a podcast where two Asians talk about their feelings. I'm Youngmi Mayer.
And I'm Brian Park.
And we have an excellent guest for you today. You already know who it is because obviously you saw the title. Brian and I talked about this. We always act like it's a surprise and then we're like, wait a minute, people can just read the episode title.
Even though they know who the guest is, they know that this one is an excellent guest.
Asian excellence
on the podcast. But before we introduce our wonderful friend of the podcast, let's do some Patreon shout outs, Youngmi.
Yeah, if you like our podcast, please subscribe to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/feelingasian. You can give us money and you get things for that.
Yeah, any donation amount gets you a shout out, and we're working with you all. We don't really know what we're doing with the shout outs because everyone's upset about everything.
Yeah, we used to have really long-winded shout-outs where we would just talk for fucking hours.
We guessed how you fucked, and then we guessed someone did anal, and then they got really upset.
Or one person got upset, and then everyone else were like, yeah, I do love anal.
Yeah, but that's what comedy is, Youngmi, is you just take one outlier example and then blow it the fuck up. And then just say that everyone does it and turn into a blanket statement.
Yeah.
That's comedy.
All Asians do it. Now it's an Asian stereotype and now Asians are mad at us.
But then people didn't like the positive affirmations because they liked it when we humiliated them.
Yeah.
So I think we're just going to go rogue and just see how we feel.
Yeah, we'll just say one thing about you and then we'll move on. And it might be good, it might be bad, but it will be true. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Without further ado, our first shout out for this episode goes out to Eileen Cho.
I know Eileen. But let me just guess.
And that's your shout out. Youngmi knows you.
I know you. Let me guess something chaotic. Eileen, you know what? I bet Eileen is one of those people that remember that show My Fucking Weird Addiction or something where the person would eat couch stuffing? I bet Eileen has something like that. You know? Eats rocks outside.
Well, in the face of extreme adversity, thank you for supporting the podcast, Eileen. Our next shout out goes out to Eliza Gutierrez. Eliza, you're slow. You're a slow runner.
Stop.
I don't know. I just got a vision.
That's mean.
Hey, I didn't make. Just an observation. It's not just an observation. Wasn't meant to be mean. You know? There's no value added to it. You took it there.
You know what though? When you run slow, you get more of that's the kind of exercise.
Wait, let me say this, Eliza. You run slow, but you just completed a marathon.
There you go.
So she's got that longevity.
Yeah. I think that's better for your heart health if you do moderate exercise for long periods of time. So I made that up.
Next shout out goes out to Jim E. Lee.
Jim E. Lee. If Jim was on My Strange Addiction, their thing would be eating the ashes of their dead spouse.
Oh my God.
Remember that episode?
That's Keith Richards.
What are you talking about?
No, Keith Richards and the
ate his
rock star.
Spouse?
He snorted his dad's cremated remains.
Wow. So this is a full-blown thing that Jim E. Lee knows about.
Yeah.
Well, on My Strange Addiction, this woman kept eating the ashes of her ex-dead husband, and how she did it was like a fun dip. She would lick her finger and dip it into the thing. That's Jim E. Lee, I think.
You know those things aren't real though, right?
No, it's 100% real. How dare you, Brian? How dare you doubt the realness of My Strange Addiction? Okay, who's next?
Next shout out goes out to Britt. Britt, your Hinge dating app is just so overwhelmingly popular that you don't even use it.
Yeah. What? Yeah. What do you mean? If it's popular, then they would use it. Wouldn't they?
But it's something neither of us ever experienced. It's so much that it's not. You don't even know where to begin to parse through all the candidates.
Yeah.
That's Britt's situation. AKA Britt, you are
crushing it.
You're crushing it.
There's too many people that want to be with you, and that's why you're alone.
Okay. Yeah, you said that, not me.
You're like Lady Gaga.
And our last shout out for this episode goes out to Anna Luo.
If Anna was on My Strange Addiction, I feel like Anna's thing would be having sex with cars. Do you remember that? Am I making this up?
I don't know if any of these have existed.
I swear to God, Google it right now.
Sex with cars.
And then I feel like I saw the episode and the guy was just like kissing the Porsche on the lips, like on the bumper, the license plate area. That's Anna. Just mwah, 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 mwah.
Does this show still exist?
I hope not. Oh God.
Well, listeners, thank you for donating to the podcast. And for those of you who haven't yet, here's an opportunity. Your new strange addiction can be donating to the Patreon.
To an Asian podcast.
Yeah. Please do so at patreon.com/feelingasian. And
Thank you.
I think it's time to introduce our guest this week, Youngmi.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
Our guest, who you already know because you saw the title, is
we got some history with our guest.
We got some history.
And
this person claims that he birthed our podcast last time we talked to him. That we're the children of his podcast. And also...
there was some beef.
Last time we were on air together was when he had an argument with Brian, and I forgot who cried. I feel like Brian cried.
There was some beef. There were some emotions let out.
You know what? Asians can be emotional too.
I'm gonna keep that menacing laugh on the track. Without further ado, listeners, give your ears to one of the hosts of the Asian Not Asian podcast and writer for James Corden's late night show. Give it up for Fumi Abe.
Hey, what's up?
Woo.
Thank you for having me. Let's start some shit. Let's start some beef.
You ready? I wish you were in the same
ready.
room. We would be punching each other. Fumi, what would be your strange addiction if you're on that show?
First of all, the car thing that's a real thing. Young me, I can look it up. The guy does fuck a Porsche from the front, which I don't know why. You would think you'd fuck it from the back because the exhaust.
Yeah.
From the exhaust pipe?
Slides in underneath.
He slides
it,
in.
Under the hood?
Like he's working on changing
he's
the
like-
oil or something. While kissing it on the lips, on the lippy lips, on the bumper lips, license plate. And he just I don't know, just pound. I don't know what he's doing. We can't see it.
Yeah, you're going extremely detailed because you're I don't know what he's doing, but he's definitely taken out the battery part and there's a loose part in the back of it, and he's definitely fucking. I don't know what he's doing.
What's going on?
He put a fleshlight down there. Fumi, what would be your strange addiction?
Dude, that's the Fleshlight. That's my strange addiction, man. I feel like I have
Porsche.
3. It's not a strange addiction because it's on sale and it's a product, but I have 3, which I feel is so many. For
Wait, you have
one
3
person.
fleshlights?
I have 3 fleshlights. One,
so you're a connoisseur of fleshlights now.
One was a gag gift from Mike, the co-host of my podcast, and it was ha ha ha, isn't this funny because you're horny? And I was like, ha ha ha, and I just went home and fucked the shit out of it. And then I made some videos on it on TikTok, making fun of it. And then TikTok is so weird. I would say 70% of the comments on TikTok are this is funny, yay. And then the other 10% is mad for whatever reason, and then there's a weird 20% pocket of TikTok comments where people just try to give you advice. So a lot of people were oh, I see you got the Asa Akira model, but have you considered trying the Riley Reid pocket transparent model or something? And they would give me suggestions on other ones I should get. So I bought a few from those suggestions. So I have 3. So that
Wow.
would be yeah.
What are the are there differences in texture or tightness? What?
So, it's so funny. You guys are you want to come on this show to talk about depression? I'm just talking about fleshlights.
The correlation is very
The
strong.
correlation is very strong, yes. Only depressed people use fleshlights.
The first one, it's the original model, which is the one you're picturing in your head. It looks like a flashlight from Walking Dead, but it's got silicone and you fuck it, right? It makes sense.
Oh my God.
But as you use it, you're okay, this is fun, but the cleanup is so messy. So
God.
after you use it, you have to clean it in the sink. You know what I'm saying? You have to turn it upside inside out. You have to clean it, and then
And listeners, keep listening because we promise you the episode is gonna get better.
Just power through this part with us, everyone. Power through. He's really
People
getting
are
into.
so confused right now.
That so many men do not wash them. Let's be real.
Yo.
I've met men. Ugh.
Oh,
Okay, and then-
for sure. So you have to flip it inside out, and they have to dry it. So I remember I was living in New York when I got my first one, and this is like my first one.
Oh
like,
my
when I was,
God.
like not with my girlfriend.
So this
for a
was in
while,
New
like,
York. So this is taking up at least 5% of your square footage in your apartment.
100%. Yeah, it's paying rent at this point. And like, I remember like, there's like you have to like dry it, and it was the winter, so I remember I would like hold it by the radiator, like I'm like baking a potato or something, and like, like war times in Asia or something.
Just chestnuts roasting by the fire.
Wow.
So that's
Okay.
me. That's me, guys. Thanks for having me. This is
Yo,
great.
well, thanks for joining
I
us.
was
on the
wondering
pod.
who used those things. I was like, because like it just seems like so messy. You just use your hand or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Damn.
Now
Yeah,
we know it's
that's what I use.
Fumi.
Fumi Abe, brand
It's
is
me.
strong.
It's me. Brand is
10
strong.
seconds in.
So you have the Asa. You know, for our live show, we bought one for a gift for one of the games.
Oh,
And this
there's
is why-
massive.
The Asa
And this is
Akira
why
one.
Patreon is so important, listeners.
And
'cause
now
we're in
broke.
financial ruin.
We're in financial
Really
ruin.
expensive.
It was like a joke. I can't believe Mike bought you one because I was like, oh, it's gonna be funny. I'm gonna buy it for one of the people that win these games, and I was like, Brian, I used all the money in our Patreon.
It's like $150. It's like it's not like for
No.
one joke, for one laugh, it's a lot of money.
Most expensive laugh I ever got.
Oh my God. Well, Fumi, before we dive into your feelings this week, young me, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty fucking bad. God damn it. Why
What?
do I always have the same answer? So okay, so every year I feel like this. Every year the seasonal depression like hits me like out of nowhere. I'm like, oh my God, I'm depressed. The sun went down at 4:30, and I'm
right,
like,
right.
bitch, just happens every year, you know. But like, I just can't get used to it. It sucks. And then I was in LA, and I got really depressed in LA. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but it was like I got depressed, and then I didn't want to do anything, and I felt really lethargic. It was kind of cold, which I thought it was going to be hot, but obviously, you know, it gets a little chilly in LA. And then I was like, people were inviting me out, and I was like, I don't want to go out, which I'm in that mood right now. You know, it's like chilly. I didn't want to go out. I feel sort of like drifting, like nothing's really going on. I feel like empty brained. I don't know.
Damn.
Yeah.
So things aren't going well.
Things aren't going well. And I also like, I feel like my biggest issue all the time is like when it gets cold, I get like depressed, and then, you know, I have like a lot of body image issues, and then I like gain weight, and it'll be like, if I gain like 3 pounds, that'll be like, I'm gonna kill myself. This is it. You know, like it like really impacts my mental health.
We discussed that this is an annual thing.
I know.
Last year we talked about this.
Yeah, and I like can't.
And I think you had a plan of action to prevent spiraling.
What was my plan? I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
I hope I remember. I should. I don't know. Oh, I have been drinking water, which has helped. Brought my water bottle. I have this water. I don't know. I'm just like fucking depressed. You know, it's like it's always an ongoing issue. Oh, did anything? I feel like I wanted to talk about like dramatic stuff that happened to me, but now I can't think of anything.
Oh shit.
Dramatic shit is always happening to me. You know. I don't know. That's it. That's all I'm feeling.
Word.
How about you, Brian? How are you
Similar. These last 2 weeks have been. We talked about this off record, but maybe it's because the sun goes down so early now.
Yeah,
But these past 2 weeks I've been dealing with panic attacks and these weird anxiety episodes, and then now they happen. Now like I'm embarrassed because sometimes. Oh, not sometimes. They do happen when I'm hanging out with my girlfriend. And then
wow.
I feel great that I have someone there to comfort me while I'm going through this, but it makes me feel really guilty because I'm like, God damn it. This is too much emotional labor to put someone through. Like, I get if it's like a one-off thing, but it's happening like kind
all the
of,
time?
not all the time. I think it's stress induced, but I feel like I'm like, God, like that's the thing. I'm like navigating that because I keep it to myself and I don't want to burden my girlfriend with these like heavier emotions that I'm going through. But then when I do share with her and she's there for me, it makes me feel better. But I don't know. I don't want to like. I just still overall feel like I don't want to burden. It's so burdensome. No, I don't want to like hang out with someone who's always like frazzled and spiraling. That's not fun.
Well,
that's bad vibes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's like a thin line because it's like that vulnerability, I think, strengthens bonds, right? Like even if you're being like Even if you're going through a
right.
hard time,
but with
a
any
lot-
friendship or
but then if it's all
even
the
a romantic
fucking time,
relationship,
yeah,
yeah, it's a bonding mechanism. But I want to bond on positive things, not
Yeah.
on like negative shit. You
yeah.
know?
And I have to say, I'm not saying that this is you, but I've been in relationships where somebody was like really needy like that and like
Yeah.
always having a fucking panic attack, and I was like trying to be there for them, but then I was like, I mean, we've been seeing each other for like maybe 4 months or something at that point, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this, you know, I don't really
Right.
know you that well, and this is like, you need a lot more support, and like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it led to the end of that relationship. Not that that's you. I'm not that sounds like my
Yo.
ex who sucked. I'm just
Yo.
but you know what I mean? But yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a fine line, because like, you know, obviously that's like, it is like a vulnerable thing that bonds people.
Right.
But then you don't want to be that fucking person that's like always having a fucking Woody Allen
Right.
like level. Like
I know.
dating, nobody wants to date Woody Allen, you know.
Fuck. Yeah, but there's this other thing that I wanted to talk about on the podcast because it's just an observation, but I didn't really talk about it yet.
Yeah.
And I recently saw Dune and The French Dispatch. Basically like the I've got Timothy Chalamet. He's everywhere. But
Timothy Chalamet.
yeah, I got Timothy Chalamet, and in those two films, I'm not gonna give out too many spoilers here. I don't know. They're big enough where I feel like everyone's
Spoiler
fucking.
alert.
I think people have fucking seen these films, but in both of those films, there are Asian men in both films, and you know, I noticed after it was so I saw Dune first, then French Dispatch. And at the end of it, I noticed that in both films, like the one Asian guy in both of those films, he kind of plays like a duplicitous, sneaky character that involves like, because they don't have a lot of dialogue, yet they're like plot devices to propel it forward. But then both of them commit like sneaky shit. And I'm like, wait.
Who are the Asian guys? I saw both of those movies. Fell
Timothy
asleep with both of
Chalamet.
them.
I'm just kidding.
So in
So,
what?
are you talking about Jason Momoa in Dune?
No, in Dune, it was the doctor.
Oh, the fucking chiropractor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy sucked.
Jason.
Yo. And at the end of it, I
No,
was
that
just
guy
like,
was evil. Yeah. You're right.
right. And so, although in the French Dispatch, he was like he painted as a hero, so it's a little different spin, but the act itself is like
Sneaky.
sneaky.
Conniving.
It's like a little like it's duplicitous, you know? So I'm like, this weirdly kind of reinforces this like trope in a way of like Asian men kind of like lurking in the shadows
Right.
and being quiet.
Well,
and
it's like a book that was written in like the 60s, right? 60s, 70s.
the Dune.
Dune.
Yes.
So that makes sense to me that a sneaky character is Asian, you know.
But was the character Asian in the original Dune? I have no idea.
I have no idea.
well,
Was he?
nobody's Asian because this is like the year 10,000 and
Yo, so why they
like,
cast him as Asian, bro?
Why
Yeah,
they
you're right.
cast
You're
him-
right, bro. I don't even know. And they made him a chiropractor. That was so weird.
They made him a chiropractor.
I
He's
swear
a
to God, he's like,
scammer
I'm
and
not
a
joking.
scammer. Yeah.
And yo, you know, I know how it is. Like, I'm not like that upset about it. It was just something I'm like, oh, this is
Interesting.
interesting.
Interesting. Noted.
Yeah, it's still out
Noted.
there.
Yeah.
well,
It's nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
What were
no,
you
go
saying,
ahead.
Fumi?
That was nothing.
Oh.
Nothing.
I mean, you see things like that, and then you're like, what's going on here? But then, like now, I feel like how that's just like fiction. But like, you know how like the news, I feel like somebody pointed it out years ago about how the news approaches China, and it's always like Chinese people are sneaking around, like the New York Times, like tomorrow there will be an article that comes out like Chinese oil exporters are sneaking behind our backs. Like every story they have about China is like under this like propaganda light of them being sneaky and cheating. And so I don't think it's that weird for you to be like, this is weird. It's definitely a big thing in America.
He also
and
had
the
an
West.
Asian name, didn't he, Brian?
In Dune?
His name was wasn't his name like Dr. Yan or something?
Yeah.
Yan.
Dude, why is he Asian?
I don't know.
Now that I'm thinking about it, dude, I was like, I went to go see the movie, and I did fall asleep because it was a little boring in the beginning. But like now that I'm thinking about it, that was because the whole point of that whole thing is that it's like a whole different universe, and people's names are like Duncan, Idaho. Like there's no association with
or randomly it'll be like Jim.
Right, but the Asian guy, his name is Ching Chong Yen for some reason, and I think that's really messed up. I don't know.
Interesting. And he's
I never really
sneaky
thought
and a
about that.
scammer.
Yeah, just let's go see Dune and see if you like that character. That's all I'll say about it.
Yeah, let me check it out and I'll tell you what I think.
But yeah, Fumi, how are you feeling?
Oh, how am I feeling? So many things. It's good to see you guys. I'm happy right now, but I guess that is the issue. I have been having trouble feeling things recently.
Damn.
I relocated to Los Angeles a little bit ago, and for the first time in my life, I'm just sort of like, I guess I'm experiencing like depression symptoms, which I never really, I always I knew it was a thing, but I never really believed in it for myself. And so as I was going through it, I was doing the same thing Young Me's doing, where I was just like, I guess I need to drink more water or something, like I didn't really know what to do. So even when I went to go see Dune, I saw French Dispatch, and when you're like kind of going through that, you're like very tired all the time. So I fell asleep both movies. French Dispatch, I walked out halfway. I didn't think, I don't know. Did you like it?
No.
I like stopped after like the jail saga or whatever it was, but yeah, it's been but like I'm trying to stay positive, but it's been a challenge to like feel strongly about things recently, whether it's like my job or just things I'm watching, or like just simply interactions I'm having with other people. A lot of it is just like it just kind of goes through me, or it like annoys me, if that makes sense.
I mean, I'm glad you said that, because I feel like that too. You know what I'm feeling right now? So weird. I'm feeling so not funny. Like I cannot think of one thing that seems funny to me. Like I still am like creating content and like writing jokes and stuff, but I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like would anyone think I'm like, this is not funny at all. Like I have such a hard time feeling anything.
Yeah, that's the saddest part, I think, is obviously, other than like creating things, I think as like artists or comedians, the single important thing is that you feel funny. You don't have to be doing something funny, but you have to feel funny. That is the engine of it all, whether it's stand up or whatever it is. And it's so hard to feel funny when you're like depressed, and then you actually like hate it when you're doing it. Like I've been doing stand up, and I hate it, and I've never hated stand up before. So it's like a really scary. It's like the scariest part is like you start to like feel very apathetic about things you used to really care about, and then what I'm struggling with right now, which I would love to get your take, because this is a mental health podcast, is like I'm always trying to answer the question, which version of myself is me? So like I have these feelings towards things in my life right now, and I'm sober, I'm not drinking, I'm not under any drugs, so these are real feelings I have for these things, but I know that given a certain circumstance, or next week, if I whatever, like I'm in a better mood, I might feel slightly different about those things, so that's also real. And I'm always just like, I know you're not supposed to like take things so seriously when you're depressed, because like there's chemicals in your brain that are imbalanced or whatever. But I'm still like, well, this is still part of me. So like, do I need to like analyze this emotion a little bit more, or do I just kind of shove it aside as like, oh, this is like a medical thing. This is depression. So don't think too much about that and go for a run. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I always struggle with that, because I'm still like, because I'm like, I know that I've had depression all my life, but part of me is just like, maybe I'm just bad at like dealing with my emotions, and they're just getting mushed in and muted, and these are just negative feelings that are coming out from something that I like mushed down a long time ago. So I don't even know. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know the answer to that.
Same. I'm pretty similar. I think I've expressed this to, I don't know if I said this on the podcast or something, but the way you're feeling it mimics a lot of how I sort of exist in the world, and it's been like this for a while where like I think there's like a buffer placed over my my experience output. So nothing like ever gets me super pumped or amped, but nothing ever really gets me like that sad or there's no everything's just sort of like equalized where it's just that's it. And that's hard, man. I don't know. I've never considered that it is a chemical imbalance and stowed it away. I've always just interpreted it as this is like who I am, and I am.
I'm so scared to do that because I feel like especially like in comedy or just like you watch movies and television shows and stuff, and I think there's this like thing of like a lot of times like I'm depressed is the punchline to a lot of things, you know. And and I remember I didn't. You know, I've been watching comedy for like a very long time, and I actually never really understood depression jokes because I've never been depressed. So I'm always like, I guess that means sad. Like that's just sort of my extent of the knowledge of what depression is for a long time. And now that I'm like going through it, you know, it's very, very scary because really makes it's very scary because it's like, what if I don't get excited about anything ever again? And so I refuse, like, because of that fear, I refuse to be like, I'm just a depressed comedian. Like, I hate that. I want this to go away. Like, I want this to be like cancer or something. You can just surgically remove it or something. You know what I mean? They're
totally.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Like, well, because that's the scary thing. I mean, for you, stand-up comedy specifically has always been like such a big part of your life. Like it's a big part of your identity, and it's your foundation of your life experience. And to suddenly like have a changing feeling about this thing that's been so consistent for you is really scary. But that's like, I think that maybe I should stow it away and like seek a medical treatment. But for me, that feeling has always been like my feelings towards stand-up like changed, and then I just chalked it up as like, okay, maybe I just changed as a person and I don't have the same feelings for it as I once did, and that's okay. I'm not gonna be afraid of it. But I think a litmus test and that I employed is with stand-up comedy, it's this sort of niche lifestyle, but it's easy to fall into routine. And I found that when I was in the thick of it, or just comedy at large, you know, you're either like creating content or you're going on stage and then you're going to the same bars and seeing the same people. And that routine becomes reinforced. And I found that by just doing the same things over and over and over again, my brain wasn't being activated at all. And I felt like a zombie. Like I could just go to all my commitments and live my life without having to like just become an enlivened version of myself. And that's where I found like I was feeling kind of depressed. So I purposely, and even to this day, I'll like do random one-off events that I normally wouldn't do just to get a gauge of like, does this still excite me? Maybe it's a byproduct of I'm like too fixed in a routine where my brain is just not stimulated enough.
Yeah. Wait, what's going like? So when did this all start? Did it coincide with your move to LA? Do you think, or is it just separate than that?
It did coincide with my move to LA, but you know, a lot of people say that when they like relocate, they get depression and stuff. Which like, I think you know, there's something happening there for sure. Like I do live alone, and I don't have a community here, and yes, there is the comedy community here, but it's not the comedy community that raised me, you know, like it's not my homies in New York. So everything from like, I think there's a big social aspect to comedy in New York, because if I do a show in New York, like there's a good chance that like a good friend of mine will be at the show and we'll grab a beer afterwards, and then that's fun. But here, like I don't know anybody, they don't know me. And so, and nobody really hangs out after shows because people are driving. So you just do your set and you go home. So there's like that. So it's like, you know, there's a little bit of disconnect there. It's like I had this community. I thought I was going to have it here, and it's just not what it's like. But I also have been recently thinking it's like, so like I got this like writing job, which is like which is cool. You know, I think every comedian wants to like write professionally at some point if that's something that they're interested in. But it's this feeling of like you get it, and then you know, it's like Biggie Smalls said it best: "Mo money, mo problems." Like you get here, and then you're just like, okay, well, like now I have to like fight for a job for the rest of my life. So like I was working like a corporate job for like a very, very long time, and I quit full time in 2018, went part time, and then in 2020 I got like a job at Comedy Central doing like TikTok shit. So that's when I really quit, and that was full time. And then now I'm like officially done with. I'm not even freelancing for them anymore. And when you like, it's just weird. Like I think, you know, when you're like chasing the dream, it's so exciting and fun and hopeful. And then when you get there, it's just like, well, now I can't go back. And so now it's like, okay, I got this job, but it's not forever.
The
TV jobs are never forever because TV shows always end unless you write for like, what's that one fucking show that is about a doctor?
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, that, or like, what's the one, Doctor Who? Or is that what it is? Like
how something like some.
Wait, so
sitcom.
Yeah. I have my armchair diagnosis that I want to give so bad, but like when you were saying you have to fight for this job, do you feel like you're always at risk of like losing it, or like is that a fear?
I guess what I mean is like not even necessarily this job. It's just that like you always have to be thinking about the next thing, or I can't eat anymore, right? So like writing jobs for every writing job, they're 13-week contracts. So like. So not only you have to keep performing or else they'll fire you. So that plus the fact that like, let's just say you get a job writing for like Fallon or something. Well, Fallon's a bad example because he'll probably do it for like years and years. But like, let's just say you get a job writing for like Pen 15 or whatever, which is like, that might be your favorite TV show for a lot of your listeners. It's a great show. But that's only 10 weeks. That's like 10, 14 weeks, right? So you can be like, I got this job. Oh, congratulations. Let's have a party. But like you're unemployed 10 weeks after, you know? And so just this realization that like that's might be the rest of my life is
okay,
just
I
like
get it. Yeah,
it's like okay, so like and what's so different about just being in corporate America is like if you go to study and you go to Harvard and you get a job at Google, Google's not fucking going away. You can work at Google for the rest of your fucking life, or if you leave there, you know, you can keep going. You can keep. There's always other jobs you can do, and I knew comedy would never provide stability, but it's like it's so weird because like. Before I didn't have shit and I was like fine, and then now I have shit, but I'm now like realizing the gravity of the situation where it's like once you go past,
now you got some stakes.
Exactly. If you're not
like,
an amateur anymore,
now you're in the system.
You're in the system. So it's like you better fucking keep working. And like
I have to say, I have to disagree with you. Just I personally think that like a lot of, especially Asian people, we're kind of like all our lives when we're kids, we're like, you just have to get to Harvard. You have to fucking get to Harvard. And you get to Harvard. And then I think a lot of people realize that shit too. Like they have to do well at Harvard. And then after that, they have to get a job that's really good. And then they have to keep working really hard to keep that job. And I think a lot of people probably even in that sort of scenario will get to a place where they feel like you, like I thought if I got to Harvard, that would be it. I would be happy and that's the end. But now I'm realizing now I have to fucking, this is a eternal rat race, and I've entered into it now, and I've literally stepped into it, and I have to keep going on the wheel. And do you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, you're gonna get here, you're gonna work for Fallon, and then that's it, you're free. It's like no, you have to continually keep doing it, and it's like that's stressful. But can I also give like my armchair diagnosis really quick?
Yes, please.
Sure.
I think that there is like I always do this to Fumi, and I feel like Fumi is like, that's not right. But like even last time I was like, this is what I think. Like I feel like for you maybe, because when we were, even the last time we talked, you were very like, I'm like running for this. This is my dream. I'm gonna leave my sister's wedding early for an audition, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna keep doing it, and I'm gonna get ahead. Right. And like that sort of. when you're like chasing, like you said, chasing something, you don't have to think about anything, because all you're thinking about is I need to get this. I need to fucking get this. It's like the Harvard thing. And then once you get there, all of a sudden, then you have to be like, all those things that you pushed back that you didn't want to think about because you're too busy trying to chase your dream. Now you have to be like, oh shit, these things are still here. Now I have to deal with this shit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that happening at all, or?
Wait, Yeah, I think. Wait, sorry. Can I just piggyback off that?
Yeah.
So, hearing all of this, Fumi, it sounds like. Well, I think comedy is really unique in that it is technically a creative job. It is, you are living the life of an artist, and there isn't a lot of stability. But when you're in the beginning stages and you're honing your craft, comedy is a very live to work mentality. It's all consuming. Your like the pursuit of making people laugh. That is your entire identity. Fuck it. It's a rejection of corporate America. I'm choosing this life. I am living to work. I'm living for comedy. This is who I am. But then when you reach as you've done, you've obtained your dream. You're at the professional level. Then it's like this reversion, like back to work to live, where now you're feeling this pressure to like, I need to sustain this. And this is what I signed up for, because comedy, like when the early stages, and especially the way it's portrayed in the media, it's like an old boys club where you're just shooting the shit all the time and you're fucking making money and selling shows and fucking around with your boys. But then the reality of it is you're working to live, except the pressure is to just be funny and like professionalizing that. And I don't know if that exists in other if it, maybe it does, but like, I don't know. Like it's like a weird reversion, and your brain gets like tricked in a way, I feel.
So you're saying it's at the purest form when you're chasing it, and once you achieve it,
then it becomes back to, that was like a big thing for me. So I'm like, oh shit, this is just like any other job, except instead of like crunching numbers, and putting a deck.
That was the other realization as I get there. Like, I work in a cube. You know, I work in a cube. And I'm like, oh, I'm back in a cube again. Like, I worked in a cube when I was a research manager. And like, it's crazy. Like, I'm back in the cube. Like,
and then you're sitting there in the cube, and they're like, be funny now. Be funny.
Which is so much harder than putting together a PowerPoint.
This is depressing. I'm not. Oh, my God. I can't be funny. This is so depressing.
And like,
I think,
and it's like, dude, this whole fucking thing. You're right, Young Me. Like, I had this, honestly, like, I don't even think I can listen to that episode of me, you know, when I skipped your birthday, and I was like, this is just what I do, man. Like, cause like,
I felt that with you.
I was so naive. Like, it's just like, well, not naive. It's just like, I didn't know what was over here, you know? And like, I'm not saying, I am happy in ways that like, I'm making more money than I ever been in my entire life. And it is amazing to be able to make a living doing stand-up, like doing comedy. That's an amazing thing, and like I'm very proud of that for sure. But like, it's this whole nother, like, dude, like now I feel like for example, like I guess like I'm just feeling like, who am I doing this for now? And I keep thinking back to, I remember when I first started comedy, there was like a more established comedian who was like pretty famous, who saw me at a show, and I was like, oh, I'm such a big fan. We were talking, and I was an open micer. I remember he was like, just remember these times, man, because like running around with your friends, like doing stupid open mics, like that's the funnest time you're gonna have.
Dude.
And I was like, what are you talking about? And I'm just like, dude, the other day, like I literally was thinking about like me and you at like No Fun Bar, like just fucking around and then going to a different mic, bombing, and then taking a train and eating a taco and being like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Like, bro, I know that sounds so stupid, but like that was really fun for me because I was 24.
That's so... Bro, that is, I think I told you this, but when I ran into John Mulaney and I had the same conversation, I was like, I'm a huge fan, blah, blah, blah. And he said the same exact thing where he was like, just remember, he's like, I'm telling you now, before anyone knew my first Netflix special, when I was just like eating dollar slices with Nick Kroll and Chelsea Peretti and like Aubrey Plaza, like, that's the most fun I had in comedy. And I was like, you're fucking ridiculous. You're John Mulaney. This is bullshit.
It's really, really crazy. Like,
you know what? I have to say, like, you know, not to like, I feel like when you were saying that the last time we talked to you, seriously, I was thinking that. Like, I was like, I feel like Fumi's really set on this goal, and there's a lot of stuff that he's pushing aside. And I was like, I wonder what that's gonna feel like for you to have to like deal with that stuff.
Damn.
No, like I was
Yeah.
thinking that a little bit, you know.
Damn. But
Yeah.
for me,
I mean,
what I'm wondering is, do you think you'd still, because you moved to LA and that's a big life change, and that
Yeah.
comes with a lot of adjustment. And do you think you'd still experience this if you'd stayed in New York? Because
Oh yeah, like what if you had a
like, because
great
in
job
LA
here?
you don't have as strong of a network as you did in New York, and like that sounds really
Yeah.
challenging and hard. You know, you're like in a
for
totally
sure.
new place.
I think I would experience some of it, but I have been I don't have a therapist right now because I got dumped because I moved state lines and she's not licensed here. So I've been talking to some friends about it, and
Yeah.
you know, it's interesting. A lot of people are like, "So what are your coping mechanisms?" They always say that to you, right? They go, I feel
Wow.
this way. What are your?" And in the beginning, I was like, "What are you talking about? Like coping mechanism? Like I don't have a way out. What are you talking? If I had a way out, I'd fucking do it already. You know what I mean?" People are like, "Oh, you should go running." I'm like, I hate running when I'm happy.
I
Why would I
know.
run now? Like this is so dumb. But like, fuck. What was your question? Sorry, I got really angry for a second, and that felt really
Coping
good to feel something, but
mechanisms, therapist.
Oh, yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, like, you know,
oh, but
in
I feel this
LA
way in New York. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I would have a community. Like I would have you guys. I would have
Right.
Maria, my girlfriend. Like so, there would be people that I would be seeing that I love and care about, and I think that would help me for sure. But I think moving is just tough. But I had a really interesting conversation the other day with Kulap. You know Kulap Vilaysack. She's
Yeah.
married to she was the Asian girl in the Benihana episode of The Office. But she was, you know, we were talking about this, and I always like dismiss it because I'm just like, well, I'm just like being a little bitch because, you know, like imagine how hard it was for like our parents and stuff like that.
Right.
And then as soon as I mentioned that, I was like, you know what? I remember when I first moved to Ohio, you know, my mom didn't speak the language. I didn't speak the language, but I was 8, so I didn't care. And my sister was 7, so she didn't care. It was like we're just like kids playing basketball. It doesn't matter. And I remember for like years, my mom, like she couldn't work either, right? And so she didn't have any friends, no work. My dad's working, so she has no access to a real community. She would just be like watching like Japanese TV or like Korean dramas that she would like have my grandma tape and send. And just like she'd be in her pajamas the whole day, just kind of like laying around or whatever. And I'm just like, I'm doing that now, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if she was depressed. But I was 8 and I didn't understand that. You know what I mean?
She's definitely depressed.
Yeah,
It's isolating.
Yeah.
for sure. So like, yeah. So when I think about that, I'm just like, well, maybe I need to like kind of, you know,
That's
put everything into
traumatizing.
context.
Fuck.
I have to say, like, the other day took some mushrooms, and then I was like waiting for the subway, and I'm just saying this, like, I feel like a lot of us are told that these things are not a big deal, but we don't realize that we are just like primates, and
Yeah.
it's like moving across, you know, whatever, however many 2,000 miles. We're still like evolutionary wise just monkeys. So
Yeah.
physically our bodies don't even understand that. Do you know what I mean? Like the fact that your mom moved halfway across the world, like your body doesn't understand that it like flew
right.
like this, because that would have taken you like a year to walk. You know what I mean? And like I think
Yeah.
like the mushrooms thing is that I took the mushrooms and I was waiting for the subway, and I felt my body become physically scared at the sound of the subway, right? Which is, that's just a biological response. Like my dog, when I have my dog with me, she like starts to shake because it's a loud noise.
Right.
And that's just a physiological response. And I was like, it like dawned on me that those things, my body is doing that all the time, but I'm just unaware because my brain, like intellectually, I understand it's just a subway and the loud noise isn't dangerous. But my body
right.
doesn't really know that. So it's like, ah, like that. And I don't even realize that there's all these like shitty, like anxiety things that are physically happening to me. And I think like just the fact that moving, even though mentally you understand I'm still in the same country, I still watch the same TV shows, I'm still eating all the same at the same restaurants, technically, you know, whatever, at fucking Chipotle.
Right.
But like your body might not even understand. You know what I mean? Like it is like a big
Yeah.
change, and I think we
Sure, and here,
forget
you know,
that.
you guys are talking about seasonal depression. Like, it sure gets a
Yeah.
little cold here, but today's like 83. Like, you know, like, and
Right.
it's weird because last week was my birthday, and like, all my birthdays have been in the fall, and I have vivid memories of like what I'm wearing on my birthdays, and I don't even feel it anymore because it's just the same.
Yeah.
So
Damn.
for sure there is
And what
like a
that's doing with your body.
like for sure there's like a biophysical thing happening.
Can I
think.
say something about my depressing feelings that I just realized talking to you just really quick?
Yeah.
Sorry, because like it's just because like about to having to do with your career and stuff. Recently, I think I told Brian about this a little bit, but I've like gotten a lot of interviews with people that are interested in me as a comedian, just because like, you know, like my social media presence is like kind of blowing up.
Yeah.
And I've been having these meetings with people that are incredibly important, and it's for some reason that's made me completely shut down.
Really?
Like I've had these meetings with all these like production, I don't know, directors, producers, like really important people.
Yeah.
And they're like interested in my projects, and they're like, well, what are you working on? Like what can we, and they're like the people that can put me on television basically, right?
Yeah.
And I've had like I have so many of these meetings, and like it's making it worse for me where I literally have completely stopped writing.
Really?
And I can't do it at all. I've completely shut down, and I think it's led to me becoming really depressed. And I just realized that talking to you.
What about it made you turn off, you think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, I mean, I've talked about this before. I have a huge fear of success more than a fear of failure. And I talked about this in therapy. There's a lot of things that happened to me as a child that led to this. I really feel uncomfortable when I'm in the spot. Like, I know that sounds weird because I'm constantly online and I'm doing this podcast right now. Like, listen to me. But like, I have this huge fear of like succeeding. I mean, it's like a very complicated issue, but it's
Interesting.
basically.
Because I would have assumed it's a fear of failure. So
No, I
rather
don't have
than
a
like
fear.
trying and having to fail, you just avoid it altogether.
I have the complete exact opposite. I'm comfortable in failure. I'm comfortable when I don't do well. It's,
Damn.
Well,
I mean, like, just to be very quick and explain why, and this is like something I learned through therapy.
Right.
It's because growing up, I had a mom who was very competitive with me, and every time I succeeded in anything, I was punished. So every time I got like a good grade, you know, my dad would be like, "Good job," and my mom would be like, "Oh, like what? You think you're fucking smarter than me?" And like, so I would get punished.
Damn.
No, and it's very complicated.
Yeah.
But now I'm scared because, you know, like as a small child, like all you want is like acceptance from your
Fuck.
parents. So like it almost feels like if I do this, I'm not gonna be loved or something. Like people are gonna resent me, and it's gonna be really, really bad. Like so it's like I understand it like intellectually, but there's nothing I can do to stop myself from sabotaging myself. No,
well,
anyway.
do you think it's like, do you think it's related to, because you don't feel that way when you do your live shows, I'm sure, right? When people are like, "Oh, I love your podcast," I'm sure that makes you feel good. And I think
I'm
that's
gonna be
an
completely
element.
honest with you. I do feel that way, and I have to constantly fight it.
Okay, well,
Like when I do well, like I have this severe fucking dip, like depression dip. After everything that I do, if it does well.
well,
So-
okay, this kind of goes
okay.
back to what Brian was talking about initially with his, like, he doesn't want to put anxiety on his, you know, girlfriend because he doesn't want her to deal with that. But like, I think we all have like these little issues that we're dealing with, but like inevitably, like, Brian's gonna find someone, Youngmi, you're gonna be famous. So like, what do you ever think about, like, what are you gonna do in the future? Like,
I'm
you know,
probably
'cause it's
gonna
not
fucking
going away.
overdose on heroin and die.
Oh,
immediately. I'm not
Jesus.
joking. I
Jesus.
don't think I'll be if I do become
No, but
famous,
like,
like
here,
that.
I'm not.
that
I'm like
feeling would
armchair. Here,
be
can I armchair psychologist here?
terrifying. Yeah.
You, in an earlier episode, you told me that a big motivation for you pursuing comedy or any of this shit is to provide access and a better life for Mino, your son.
But literally, that's the only way I've been able to do it this far because I've twisted it in my brain enough to be like, I'm doing this so I will have money and Mino will have like, Mino can piggyback off of like this security.
Right.
Create. That's literally the only way I can think about it where I don't freak out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I still like, like, I don't know. Even when I think this has a lot to do with like, sorry to like, not to take this away from Fumi because I want to talk to you more about LA and stuff, but like This has a lot to do with like, you know, whenever I do something online and it goes really well and
Yeah.
you're like, hey, great, that was a funny video.
Sure.
And I'm just like, I'm like literally like terrified. I'm just like, I don't know. That's just like, I feel like someone's gonna like punch me in the face or something.
Whoa. Well, I see some parallels between the two of you a little bit. I don't know if it comes. I don't think it comes from the same source, but even for you, Fumi, you moved to LA for your dream job,
Yeah.
which is to be a professional comedy writer
And you
for
did it.
a big TV show. You fucking did it, and then on top of that, you had a late night set. That's like the dream for a lot of stand-ups, and it all happened in conjunction pretty shortly after LA, and then. And I don't know. I don't think this is that uncommon of a phenomena because one of our previous guests, Angela Garbs, who, the author who wrote Like a Mother,
Angela Garbaz.
Angela Garbaz, she told us that when she was like doing her book tour, she was like severely depressed, and she's like, "Why do I feel this way? Like I worked so hard for this, and I'm like, I have this privilege to talk to these room full of people about this book that I poured my heart and soul into, and it's like, why do I feel like I should be like." Clamoring for joy and like jumping on the top of a hill and like so happy, you know?
Yeah. And she was talking about how for her it was like imposter syndrome. Like she was like, she is the expert, but she feels like she tricked everyone. That's how I feel. Like I tricked everyone.
I feel that way
me.
There's not a day
Oh
that goes by where I
God.
walk into the
Yeah.
writer's room and I'm like, this was a complete diversity hire. Like I think about that every day.
Aw,
And so
that's
like,
not true.
so that on top of like, and then also like, you know, like the whole like the not have to fight for, you know, jobs moving forward. What the saddest part about that is, and I think it's the reason why like it's this thing to depression. It's making me not excited about things I used to love. Like it when you put it like that, everything seems just so anything that's not helping me live my life. Helping me get the next meal seems so stupid and like dumb to me now, and I think maybe that's why stand-up is not like doing anything for me because I'm like, what is this, $20 gonna fucking, you know what I mean? Like I just, and then even like my own podcast, which I remember like there was a time when like we were first starting in 2018, we would only ever get like 500 downloads, but I was just so excited. I was like, 500 people listen to us. That's so amazing. That they listen to what I have to, you know. And I was on my couch. We never had guests. It was just me and Mike fucking around, talking about stupid shit. Yeah. And now we're like a lot bigger than that, and it's like awesome. But it's not like we're not like Joe Rogan big, and it's not enough to like live. You know, it's not enough to like support one person, let alone two people. And I can't help but be like, what am I doing every Saturday? Like, what is this? You know, like, and it's so scary to have that thought because it's like. Well, like, am I just gonna stop that? You know, and I'm trying to figure out like which version of me is the real me is the answer. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, which is the real answer? I don't know. I feel like
this
a
conversation's
politician.
getting way too real, man. I literally had these exact same thoughts like this week where I even told my girlfriend, like, even I love doing this podcast, but even then I'm like, I have the same thoughts as you, and I'm like, should I just fucking rather than just talk about it incessantly on the, should I just quit and then go to a boot camp and just become a software engineer and fuck it all?
I don't blame you.
That's it. Like,
meanwhile, I love failing. I'm like, no one's listening to the podcast. I'm comfortable here. Don't blow up the podcast. Then I won't want to do it.
No, but for real though, it's like.
It's so real, right?
But to your point, Young Me, we are we're just fucking primates. We're just animals. Yet the
I'm
feelings,
scared of loud noises.
What we're dealing with is like so complex, and I think it even goes beyond our consciousness and level of like to really understand it. And it's fucking scary, dude. Like
It's so scary. It's really scary.
I think. Honestly, all these people who we see who are successful or like public figures in the art creative space, I feel like maybe they just, this conversation we're having right now is like how they feel all the fucking time, but it's just a matter of like, it's like a war of attrition and just surviving it and pushing past.
They feel crazy. I feel like that's why everyone that's famous does so many drugs and stuff.
But if you put it that way, it's like, do you even want this? You know? And then if it's like, if you go that far and you're like, well, why did I even start this? And then like, this has been my whole life. I was 20. I threw my entire 20s away for, you know, it's like, it's such a fucking mind fuck.
Okay,
it's
you know
so
what?
crazy.
Okay. let's take a breather, everyone. Fumi, let's just look on paper. On paper, Fumi Abe started this journey to become a comedian. He is now a writer for late night. He had a late night set. He has achieved basically the top tier of what a comedian can achieve in America. Let's just take a breather and be like, you did it. You did a great job. You're going through it right now. But let's just look at that and be happy about that.
Well,
for one
oh my God.
Just for a minute. Just
Yo,
breathe.
can we just take take a second to acknowledge that Youngmi, who is a mother, just gave you the most Asian mom advice right now. She's like, let's just take a second. You should be happy. That's it.
I said that to you.
No, I think the listeners, if you want one takeaway from this episode is don't follow your dreams. And don't succeed, because once you succeed is when you have to start thinking about everything else, and that sucks.
And there's no, it's different person to
Sabotage
person,
yourself.
but I don't know. For me, maybe these feelings aren't unhealthy, and maybe it is like normal to just reevaluate. Like you achieve goals and they change you as a person, and then that in effect will like change your judgment of what it is that you're doing. And I don't know if you're doing this right now, but who knows? Like you've done the podcast for a while, you've done the stand-up thing for a while. Like you've gotten to a level at it where you're good, and maybe it's time to like set different goals and feel it out. It can still fall under the umbrella category of comedy, but like you're flexing that muscle. But I don't know, maybe like get published somewhere, or like write a screenplay or like a pilot and see if it's still fun. Like I don't know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of, it's.
I would
say, I guess even if that's true, I guess there's something so it feels like a part of you died, because it's kind of like your kid's dying, you know? It's like, does that make sense? Like it's just like this thing that you loved it. You loved it when you made no money, and people were you loved it when you were bombing. You loved it when your family was like, what are you doing? You loved it, you know, when you were embarrassing yourself in front of a date or whatever.
Right.
And now you don't feel that way, and it's like, I feel like, depression sometimes can feel like it's like erectile dysfunction for your mind, you know. And I'm always like, you used to love jerking off to stand up. What happened? But I can't get hard for podcast, stand up, whatever, like Friends, you know, like, and that's like there's a part of me that's like, oh, what's going on? Like, you get hard, and I can't, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a weird feeling.
Well, at least you got to the place where you achieved all your dreams, and now you're depressed. I can't even start. I'm like, somebody was like, hey, we want to give you a chance. I was like, nope, I just give up. I give up. I'm done. I'm never gonna.
Meanwhile, I'm on the sidelines, like, put me in, coach. I'm ready. Put me in.
Well, whatever. We're fine. I think this is interesting. I think this is a very fascinating conversation. I think that the weird thing also, I'm going to just say this. I know that I gave this corny like advice thing, but like the weird thing is like, I think there are people that are probably listening to this or like even know about you or, you know, our podcast. Sorry. And they're probably like, they probably want to do what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? Which is weird. Who cares about that? But like, they're probably like, I would love to like work at your job, Fumi, and like have a late night set. Like that's my dream, and like, you know.
But
it doesn't matter.
But that's like, I feel like that's inapplicable in this situation, because we never did this because of people's like desires of like obtaining what we want. Like you just do it because you want to do it. Like we're doing such a foolishly stupid thing that it requires this disproportionate amount of love for it to continue it and to endure it. And I totally get it, Fumi.
Yeah.
Like
I don't like stand up anymore either.
I don't know. I mean, that's where I think that's where we like in our previous episode where we got into this argument and I was like felt hurt is that I like don't do stand up anymore. And I had these feelings before I even obtained that level of success where I was just like, fuck it. Maybe I'm just different now and I don't like it. Because I got a taste of it when I was doing like doing college shows and shit. I'm like, this is mad depressing. Like I'm just in a hotel room. Mm-hmm. This is it.
Yeah.
This is what I was like striving for. This fucking blows, man. And I realized I had neglected so many of my friendships. And I don't know, hearing you like open up like this and talk about this stuff makes me feel like really sad. And I kind of like, no, not for you.
You know
but
what
I'm
I thought
just
was really sad? Wait, sorry to interrupt.
No, go on.
I thought it was really sad when Fumi was like, I don't have like friends here. At least in New York, I had you guys, and I was like, Fumi, we saw each other like once every 6 months.
Oh
like,
my god, bro.
we were your friends. You didn't go to Brian's birthday.
Yo, but
a
Fumi,
tiny cupboard set.
in your defense, Fumi, I did not know it was your birthday last week, so
It's okay. Nobody did.
You didn't tell
Nobody
anyone.
did. And it's so
Yeah.
funny. The only people who wished me happy birthday were like people on Facebook. I'm like, who are you? You know, like those friends on Facebook that you don't know who
From
they
high
are.
school?
yeah.
No, they're not from high school. They're just like random people who added you throughout your life, and then it's like,
No.
you know.
Fuck, man.
but
No,
that's-
but I'm
that's fine.
serious though. It bums me out hearing me that you're like going through this shit, because I totally get it, dude. It sounds fucking hard as hell, and like we all do the comedy thing, and we understand you, and I don't know. I'm always here, man. You should give me a call and so we can like talk this shit out. But I'll book some tickets and go to LA and we can
Take
get Korean
some
barbecue
thirst
or something.
traps.
just shoot the shit.
That's what makes me
yeah,
feel
man, come
better.
through. Thirst traps.
Thirst traps.
Okay,
that-
well, I
We
don't
should,
know.
you know what we should do? Listeners, you heard it here first. We should do a joint show in LA where we all go out and do a show together.
just to make
You-
me feel better.
Yeah,
makes
it's
me
called
feel like
Fumi
shit.
is depressed. You, me, Brian, and Mike.
No, can we
Fix
do that? No,
Fumi's
here.
depression.
That's what we gotta do. We gotta do it in LA. We gotta do a joint show in New York at the Gramercy
Yeah.
Theater, and then on
Yes.
the matinee, it just says
Yeah.
"Feel better, Fumi." Hope
God
you
damn,
feel
I have to like
get well
shave my head
soon.
and come out in a gown or something to make it
Get
look
well
like
soon show.
Fumi's
Fumi
dying.
needs-
Oh my god.
Put on by Fumi's best friends, Brian and
That he
young
sees every
me.
6 months. Oh god.
Oh, wow.
Fuck, man. This, I thought this was gonna be kind of like a lighthearted episode because listeners in the
I told you guys it wasn't gonna be funny, but Young Me said it's okay. So I
I know. In the outline, I was like, this is gonna be real loose, and then fucking I'm realizing that we're all like in this shit.
I'm
in the
so
shitter.
depressed.
but I think a
very
lot of people
depressed.
who like comedy or not, it's like when they're chasing something, there's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
so much purpose there, and there is something beautiful about that. You know, this blind, you're blindly sprinting, and you might be dumb, but you're sprinting, and that's cool. You're going somewhere. You know,
For sure, for sure.
That's where I was in that last episode. I was sprinting somewhere. And sometimes it feels nice to sprint, you know. And I think
Yeah,
now
of course.
the lights are on, and you're just like, where is this? Now I'm in this desert, you know, or whatever the fuck, and it's very easy to feel lost. And I don't know. Stay tuned, I guess. We'll see. We'll see where I end up in a couple of months. But yeah, but it felt nice talking through it. So
Well,
yeah, thanks for.
on
yeah,
a
thanks
lighter
for
note,
doing
can you
that.
give us some funny like anecdotes about what the difference between New York and LA? Because I know that New York, LA people love talking about this. And I love analyzing the difference. Of
I listen to your
behavior.
podcast. You got some. I always laugh when you talk about like you're like
I always
doing your shows with like the hot stand-ups who are bad, and you kind of like
Oh yeah, that was such a culture shock. That's
What
so
was-
like.
she like
This
to
is,
share
it's
it.
so embarrassing to even say, but like okay, just for context, like in New York, yes, there are hot guys, but you see a lot of mediocre guys with hot girls because they're talented or they're good at something. And I feel like stand up in New York is like that. You know, you'll crush at a show, and then like some hot girl will talk to you because you were very funny.
It's like that with every
Yeah.
industry in New York. I feel
It's
Yeah,
every
yeah.
industry in New York, right? But in LA, like I did this show and like I was easily the funniest person by light years. Like none of the hot girls talked to me. The hot girls talked to the model who was trying stand up for the first time who bombed. They were talking to them, and the only people who talked to me were these fucking kids from like UCLA film school who were like, "Hey, how do I get a writer's assistant job at James Corden?" Like they're these little fucking minions trying to get a job. So I hated that, but yeah. I don't know. The fashion here is a disaster. As
Disaster.
You can probably, LA fashion's disaster. People think I'm fashionable, and I'm like, that's when I knew the shitty shit. The city shit. People in my office, they're like, Fumi is like the best dressed guy in her office, and I'm like, what do you? That's bad.
Yo, that's
like,
hilarious. Because when we
that's
would do shows in New York, every time you walk in the green room, it'd be like, "Yo, Fumi, what the fuck are those, man?"
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you hear really funny things. Like the other day, I was at a bar and like I heard a girl just be like, "LA is all about ratio," and I was like, "I need to leave now." Like, like that's like a
Oh,
thing that somebody
God.
said. You know, like you hear little things like that are like
Lots of ideas.
very funny. But again, like, you know, I'm not out there like doing much. I'm just kind of in my house jerking off. So I don't, you know, I have some New York versus LA things, but yeah, I don't know. Do you have any like strong opinions about?
I mean,
how
I used to
people
live in
do things here?
California. I used to live in San Francisco, which is a little different, but I just feel like people in California are so passive aggressive, and they are actually really mean, but they say it in this like, "Hey, Brian, I like your hat," and it's just like it's like that kind of shit, and I'm like, shut the fuck up, just like, you know.
I do feel when I meet another entertainer here, it turns into like a weird flex fest, which I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
there's a lot
They're
of,
like that.
name
They're really
dropping.
like,
oh, did you write for this? Did you submit for this? Like, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
don't. But like nobody talks to me like that in New York. I could be talking to like Ronnie Chang, you know, and he'll never say that to me, you know.
Right.
there's a
Here,
lot
like,
of fluffing up the chest there, I feel like. Whereas
Yeah.
here you'll be like sitting next to like an actual celebrity and they won't even say anything, you know.
right.
Whereas in
right,
LA,
right.
they're like, yeah, I just interned for like a
Exactly,
TikTok
yeah.
star, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah,
Damn.
I was a janitor for Charlie D'Amelio's garage or something, and they're like,
yeah.
Oh
It's
my
like good for
God.
you,
talking
man.
about it. Yeah, yeah.
Fuck.
Well,
Fuck, Fumi. Well, should we ask him the last question? Is that even appropriate on this episode?
yeah. Fumi, what's something that you're proud of?
Oh God. I don't know. I've been relatively healthy. That's nice. You know, I haven't had any major sickness, so that's good.
Fuck.
I don't know.
Fumi, I'm gonna book a plane ticket to LA.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking about?
Yeah.
I don't want to end on like a sad note, but I was like, as I was looking for new therapists, they always ask you if you're like suicidal, and I'm not, but I realize it's because I'm such an anxious guy. The thought of like if I just killed myself, and the thought of like my credit card being charged by like Netflix like next month like really makes me anxious, and like that's like the main reason why I won't do it. Like if I was gonna do it, I would have to like call all my banks and be like, hey, make sure all of my money goes to my sister. I'll like cancel all my credit cards or something. Like it's like, so that I was explaining this to like a therapist person during like a phone consultation, and she did not find it very funny, but I was like, oh, that's a thing.
I'm gonna edit that out.
can't leave us on a suicidal note.
Well, I was saying I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it because
Oh.
I've got bills on my card. You know.
Oh.
Somebody keep track of Fumi's Netflix account when it goes. If he cancels it. Oh my God.
fuck. Well, Fumi.
Well, it's been real, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh God.
That was great.
enough of
It
the
was great
business
talking to
talk,
you.
man. I'm gonna text you more often because I miss talking to you and miss hanging out with you.
But if I
And-
ignore you, don't take it personally, because I feel like when you're down, you find everyone annoying. You know, that's another thing.
yeah,
So
no worries.
if I ignore you,
So-
don't take it personally.
You prefaced it. It's all good. I will not
Yeah.
find it annoying.
Yeah, know that I read it. You know, yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for talking about things so candidly. I just think all this stuff is really interesting because it's like, well, I mean, part of the reason why it's so confusing, I think, is because we were all taught like you're gonna chase your dreams, and then you're gonna be on stage, you're gonna make it to Broadway, and like then you'll be
Yeah.
happy, you know. And like it's important for people to hear all of this shit, you know.
For sure. Perspective,
Yeah.
man.
All right. Well, Fumi, where can our listeners find you and your work? Where can
I guess
James
you-
Corden.
where can people find you? What's your Netflix
Well,
password?
check out my podcast, Asian Not Asian, where I go on every week and pretend that I'm happy. Please check that out. We have amazing guests. It's like this but weird. And follow me on Instagram at the Fumi Abe. I don't really post anything on there, but it's nice to get a follower. So please check me out on there.
And what about you, Young Me?
YM Mayor on social media. TikTok is Young Me Mayor. How about you, Brian?
You guys can find me on socials at It's Brian Park. Follow the podcast, social media. It's at Feeling Asian Podcast, wherever, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And yeah. That's our show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tune in next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.